everyone. I'm critic and filmmaker Jude, and I'm your host for today's half hour with Overcompensating. And it is my pleasure to introduce the fabulous creator of Overcompensating, Benito Skinner, and the fabulous showrunner, Scott King. Benito, would you mind giving us a quick overview of your amazing series?
Okay, yes. So Overcompensating is the sexy, fun, sad comedy that is about my experience going to college, being deep in the closet, and meeting my best friend. And then you get to see this beautiful, psychotic group around me as all of us try to overcompensate through our semester at college.
Something we all
How's
know
that, Scott?
something about, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to play a trailer right now so people get more of a sense.
Right?
Welcome to college. You can be whoever you want to be here. Can you?
I'm Benny.
Carmen.
I'm Amanda Knox's cousin.
How the freshman ladies treat me. Any hotties?
Carmen's gonna get night one. What?
Either you're a dude who or...
Do you have a girlfriend?
Nah.
Really? You seem like such a girlfriend guy. It's happening. Is everything okay?
I just have to go to the bathroom. I have to pee. I'll be right back.
It feels like you're kind of out of sync with your life.
A million colleges and you had to choose mine.
You know Dad made me. That's my boy.
We have to address the elephant in the room.
I don't even really know what I am.
Have you ever kissed a guy before?
Open your mouth. I'm gonna spit in it.
Oh, okay, guys. Take care. I'm rooting for you. Get out!
I'm starting to think I am better at being in the closet.
Yes, no matter how much we try to pretend to be something that we are not, does not mean we are that thing.
Carrying around all these secrets.
I miss you, Grace. Don't you miss you?
Perfection is boring.
I'm done playing nice. I'm going to ape on these whores. What? You live in a college town.
We'll play it. You can at least say hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Queen.
What the am I doing here? You're such a legendista.
This is the highlight of my college experience.
That is a tragic sentence.
Oh, you know that? Yeah, my friends and I used to bird call.
Congratulations, Benny. I am so supportive and I am so, so proud.
Thank you so much, Megan Fox.
Amazing. I love how you squeezed like almost every awesome cameo into that trailer.
You know what? Yeah. Sometimes you gotta do it all.
Yeah. Just the hits, but there's a lot more to see, obviously. So Scott, I would love to hear about, how you came to the series and, what it was like working with Benito, coming from like the stand-up world maybe, and you have, experience with scripted TV and, because the tone is so much fun, and so funny. And then, but finding the arc of the narrative, how did you both kind of flesh that out together?
Well, Benny has acted a lot before this as well. And but the way I came into it was that basically he was meeting with other showrunners, and I was one of them. And when I heard, well, he's really big on Instagram and I'm not on it, so I don't know what that means. And then it's a college show and I went to college 87 years ago. So what am I going to contribute? But as soon as we started talking, there was just like this click and it was just instantly comfortable. And we have such a similar sense of humor. And the more we spoke about what he wanted the show to be, while the specifics were different, and certainly being gay in college during my era was different, there were so many similarities to the feelings. And I think in terms of the arc and stuff, Benny was so clear about what he wanted this show to be. I mean, at our very first meeting, he told me what the last two lines of the season was going to be. So he really came, and as we worked together, what we really worked on was just expanding the world of who else is overcompensating and what are the ways the campus could overcompensate. And so it was more just sort of building on what he had.
Benito, what was it about Scott's sensibility that made you know this was the right showrunner for you?
Oh my God. Well, I was a little embarrassed because at the time I was traveling. And so I was in Milan, Italy when we did these meetings. And I was like, I can't let them know that. That sounds so like, I don't know. I'm like, he's gonna think I'm so annoying. And then I kind of let it slip. And then Scott just goes, Milano, fabulous. And it's just like, I don't know. I was like, this thing that was, kind of like I was a little embarrassed about, just immediately I felt so comfortable with him and we were making each other laugh. And I think I also loved, like, my favorite thing in the show is the relationship between Benny and Carmen. And Scott just kept coming back to that and was like, that is the show. Like, that is what how are we going to develop that? Whereas I think you were in some other meetings and, I think some people were like, this is the show I see. And it just felt like a different show. Whereas Scott was like, I really get what you're trying to do here. And he knew that he could make it happen with me. And I think that was what was so exciting. But yeah, it was just like immediately same sense of humor. Everything he kind of pitched me in that first meeting, I was like, that's the show. And I think that's why making it felt so right the whole time. I mean, anytime I'm working with Scott, it's like my favorite thing in the world is when I'll send him a new scene and I'll just wait and I'll be like, there's one joke in there that I know Scott's gonna love. And then I get the blah ha 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 text like 2 seconds later. And I'm like, that's why this works so well. It's just like I think, get each other. But yeah, I think it was just really what he saw in the script. And it was the same thing I loved so much. So it was almost kind of this, like, for lack of a better, a litmus test. Glad I could say that. But, where it's kind of like, I wonder if he'll love the same thing that I love so much. Like, this is my favorite part of it. And it was. So it was like, oh, it has to be him. I knew within like 2 seconds. We're also both Scorpios. So easy.
Ooh, scary.
Done. Yeah. Yeah.
Now.
All of a sudden, you get stiff. Exactly. We're going to treat you so well.
I mean, that's my favorite relationship in the show too. And it really is the emotional core of the show, while also she's such a funny, fabulous character and very specific. And, I think a lot of, it's rare, I think that gay shows really capture like female characters and their nuances, right? I think oftentimes gay men can have blind spots there, and like she just feels so fleshed out and like real and funny, and like I really liked that character and the relationship. And so, what was your relationship like with Wally Barham, a stand-up friend, or did you just discover her for this, or?
Yeah, I mean, we discovered her for this. She was sent to us for the writer's room. And I read this script and I thought she had this, spec script, and I thought it was so brilliant and so funny. And then I watched her stand up and I was telling Scott, I was like, God, she just kind of looks exactly like what we've described for this character. And, I had Carmen in my head for like 6 years. So at that point, I'm just like, I had been doing stand-up shows, going to like anything I could, like any events, any kind of like acting thing. I'm like, when am I going to find the girl that feels like right for this part? Which the part is so hard. Like when you see all the things you have to do and what that character goes through, and the fact that this girl's going through grief while also being at college, while also, helping a gay man find himself and discovering her own relationship to her body and people. It was it's a daunting task to find that character. And I knew that our chemistry had to be amazing. And the second that Wally came on Zoom to meet for the writer's room, I think there just was like an ease to her, and she was so sharp. And I think that too in Carmen, we had written that she was a great writer in the scripts, and it just felt like, oh, this feels right. But I think we took a second. These things take a long time. There's a lot of, there's a process to getting someone a lead role. So I think it was like, let's just do the room first and see how that goes. And just, and then we'll ask her to tape later. And that's what we did. But in the room, I think even more so, it just was so obvious to me consistently that she felt like Carmen. And then when we were on set, I think it was kind of surreal for Scott and I to finally see some of these scenes happen. I mean, we've been developing this for a long time. So I think Wally stepping in and I think she really blew us away. She's never acted before. until the show. And so it's just like, I mean, it's crazy that this
That
is
is.
what she delivered. Yeah.
Scott, at what point in the casting process were you involved, and sort of how did you draw on, your experience to advise there? Because it's so well casted. I mean,
I mean, I was there the whole
Mhm.
long time, and it was long.
It was easy. Yeah.
And in terms of, it was never really like debating. It was just we would read people, and then you just knew, oh, we got so lucky, right down to the cameos as well. As hokey as it sounds, there wasn't anyone that wasn't, they're the perfect part. This is exactly the role they should be playing. And then some people came in for other roles, and then we knew, no, but this is the role they should be playing. And anyway, we got really, really lucky. It just took a very, very long time to get all that luck together.
so just for people who might not know, you saw in the trailer Charlie XCX and Megan Fox, and then we also have James Vanderbeek, Didi Khan, Desiree Akhavan, Cal MacLachlan, and Connie Britton.
Yes.
And then, of course, Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang as an amazing.
Mhm.
I mean, there are more and more, but just the number of cameos is amazing. And it also made me really happy that you're sort of honoring some of those maybe legacy queer actors and filmmakers. I mean, when I saw Didi Khan, I was like, Didi!
Yes. And then
Can
Andrea
you
Martin
believe?
as the dean.
Yes,
Come
Andrea
on.
Martin too.
Yeah.
So much fun. I mean, were you just like, let's just spam people with amazing queer icons? Was that the goal? Because you succeeded.
Oh, yes. Okay. I think that's always our goal. I think we were just like this, who's our dream? And I think Scott, that was what was so why I love working with Scott too. He's like, who's in your head? Like, who is the number one person you want? Like, let's do it. Like, let's try. I mean, we're proud of the scripts we wrote. We're proud of this show. Let's send it. It's worth sending. And so I think that's what we did at any spot, when we were kind of like trying to figure it out. But we're so lucky. I feel so, I mean, this really is just Dreamcast beyond. And also I feel like each time those people showed up, it gave like the whole, production this kind of like new spark, because you're in the dorm rooms, you're shooting like this in the same spot for so many days in a row. Then all of a sudden it's like I'm with Connie Britton, and you're just like, what is going on? Like, what is this? And it just, yeah, it felt so surreal. And yeah, this cast is like beyond. It's insane, truly.
Our first table read, we just, because of circumstances, we had to read all 8 scripts in one sitting. And it was so early in the morning, and half of Amazon was on Zoom. So you're not sort of set up to succeed necessarily. And yet we had pretty much most of the cast there at that first table, probably almost 13, 14 people. And it was one of those things, once you saw everybody all together for the first time, even just coming into the room and sitting down, you just felt it. Like, this is the chemistry, it's just there. And with TV, it's just so much casting, and you sometimes have it and sometimes you don't. And we just really knew, oh, everyone is great.
I want to talk about the tone of the show too, but I think the clip will be helpful here in illustrating what you guys capture so well.
Gatorade?
Blue Frost?
Yeah.
Interesting choice. Awesome. Have a good night.
So yeah, talk about sort of what you're threading a really fine needle here, and I think it's really fun. It feels like there's sort of this kind of masculinity that you're totally skewering and satirizing in your character, Benito. You sort of play with performance of that, and then there are other characters who really embody that. And then, you know, of course, when Benny is confronted with like someone who's living authentically their truth, he's like, it all comes crumbling down.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did you I mean, that's the title of the show, Overcompensating. Was that a real sort of benchmark as you're going through the writing the episodes of like, okay, where this is the inner conflict and how it feels like it, you know, it comes up as often as it can and it just escalates and
Yeah, I think it's such a fun thing, I think, for Scott and I to track throughout the season of performance and also backslide. You know, when are they maybe letting it down a little bit? Maybe Benny is with Carmen and he's not overcompensating as much, but then the second he enters a different room, he is now. And he's different with this person than this person. And also showing that every character is like that in the show, I think was so, I think, exciting for us. And what combos of characters could we put together and show, you know, what is this revealing about them? Are they starting to feel comfortable? And for me, yeah, I think that's the whole push and pull of the whole season. It's like Benny can feel comfortable with Carmen in one, and then he's in that bodega, and nothing could be scarier than a gay man who's living and it is out. And that to me, that's kind of I think the whole point of this show. I think at times it's like, you know, there's no exact end to when you're going to stop overcompensating. I think this is a journey, and coming out is such a journey of, you know, I'm still coming out to like, you know, an Uber driver in the car, you know, and I'm still like feeling like, God, should I tell this guy? Like, fuck. But, and that's so consistent. And I think that's, I think I think that was really inspiring for us for the finale too. Is like, how far do you take these characters? And they're still in college, they're still kids. Like they're, I think, going to be selfish and also just be scared. And I think it's self-preservation for so many of these characters. But yeah, I think it was really inspiring to find that and yeah, kind of build that throughout the season.
And one other thing on that clip, it's one of those, I mean, I've said this too many times, but there's a generational difference here, maybe by a couple of generations. But that was one of those moments too, where it was something that I absolutely knew exactly, yes, yes, yes. When you are trying to hide and then there's someone who isn't, and then how you just feel like, oh God, they see me, you know, what, yeah, anyway.
only since you brought it up, Scott, I do have to say that you have an iconic roster as well. Of course, you wrote for Mad TV and the Big Gay Sketch Show and Difficult People, which is very, very close to my heart.
Mine too.
So only since you said it, I'm just curious, you know, how you see like queer comedy, queer TV, media like how different is it from, you know, when you were selling maybe Big Gay Sketch Show to now, and like are there things you can get away with that you couldn't before, and like where do you see Overcompensating fitting in, you know, in the of your amazing career?
So what I will say is, yeah, I do think it's a little bit harder now than it was then. I think then it just wasn't an issue. In the way that I feel like now with just all that's happening in the world, it's hard to, I think an audience comes to it now maybe with more expectations, or it's more of a loaded situation. I think in the end, this is a very human story about these two best friends. And it's so important and relatable and real, and that's what the show is. And I think now there's probably more of a spotlight because of all that's happening in the world, if that makes sense.
I guess, Benito, I'll shift to you too. I mean, it does feel like there's been a queer comedy boom. If we're just talking stand-up and comedy,
yeah.
I do think we're in like, you know, the Babylon of queer comedy for sure. So
I'm in New York. This is Cola Scola City now. You know what I mean? I love it.
Oh my gosh.
And
Have you seen that show yet? I just saw it finally. Oh my God.
Oh,
so fun.
I mean, that's as good as it gets. Yeah.
So it feels like Overcompensating is coming at the right time in that sense. And really, you know, you so wisely kind of took advantage of all those people, you know, with the casting and also, you know, what you're doing with this show. Can you talk a little bit about the direction? Because, you know, I love that Desiree Akavan had a cameo in there, and then I looked and I was like, oh my God, she directed it. Great.
Mhm.
How did you?
Yeah.
And then you also had Daniel Gray Longino. So you had two directors for over the 8 episodes. How did you choose them, and what was it like working with them?
Oh my God. Well, we met with quite a few. There's definitely some directors in LA who'll probably never speak to us again with love. We love them so much. Your pitches were amazing. It was just really, I think for us, it was just finding, I think, the people that saw the heart. And I think it is that Benny Carmen thing, but also knew how much we wanted to play. Like, I think sometimes that can be tricky with people where they're like, but what, okay, so this is kind of serious what you're talking about with Benny and Carmen. And then the rest of the jokes seem kind of, big and wild. We're going for it. But I think in both of those meetings with Desiree and Dan, there was I mean, they were both so funny. And I think, yeah, just had these brilliant ideas and brilliant reference points that were, I think, a lot of similar ones to me and Scott, whether that be like Election or Clueless or American Pie, or trying to do these things, but then make them queer and finally tell these stories and boldly tell these queer stories within these worlds that I think we have seen on screen for so long. So I think in the end, they were easy decisions to have Desiree and Dan, and I feel so lucky to work with them. Desiree was such a incredible person to work with because she's also an actor. So I think that was really interesting, and they felt very different. And I think even the episodes that they direct, it makes so much sense why they direct those episodes. And I think we were really specific about that. I feel so fortunate that's the two of them. I think like two truly brilliant people that also still managed to help us make a cohesive show. But I think that the episodes, that they did allow that kind of like different journey. And I think Desiree comes in at the 4th episode, right when the show tone kind of shifts a little bit and it gets a little, we're playing Party for You. It gets a little sadder. Like there's something lurking, and also these queer stories, Desiree is queer. So I feel like that was really important to us too, that in some of these scenes, having her there was really, yeah, it was fantastic. So, but I love them both. It was a very easy decision, but yeah, we were lucky. We met with so many people because we were like, we have to get this right because the tone is tricky of this show. And I think that's something that Scott really fought for too, of like, we have to get this right. Like it all has to make sense together or it will feel clunky or uneven or, strange. And I love where we landed on it.
And one Desiree moment, if I can, there's an episode. I don't want to do any spoilers, but on the Halloween episode, there's a dance and it's a moment, and Desiree and I just looked at each other, and as hokey as it is, and I am the most snarky person on earth, but we both just started to cry. And I did have a moment, speaking to your question earlier, of I'm getting to do this. Like we're getting to tell this story, and how lucky to have met Benny to be able to do this. And what would it have been like in college if I had a friend like Benny? And I think she was feeling the same thing. It was just a very emotional moment in my career that I'll never, ever forget.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Final question for Benito. Since the show just launched on Prime Video, is there one thing about this series that stands out for you that would make someone want to check it out?
I think the show feels very singular in the end. I think like you're not going to see anything like this on TV right now. And I'm so proud of that because of all the people that are in it and how much work and the fact that I got to collaborate with Scott King. And this is like whatever was in my head, this is so beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And I swear you're going to see some version of your experience of growing up on screen, because whether it be in the writer's room or on set, I think we were championed in the end to tell our stories. And I think what I love is like recently I'm having more people watch it and they come up to me and they tell me like the one little thing that reminded them of being in college or high school or their 20s or 30s or whenever. And they're like, I can't believe you included that. That's insane. And I feel like queer people I've been dying for that my whole life. I wanted to see these things on screen. I wanted to see Brendan Fraser as George, like the George of the Jungle. I'm like, that was my moment. And so I think those things, I think you're going to see, hopefully, whether it be one thing or a million things, you're going to see I think you're going to see yourself or the people around you. And I think the show feels very communal. Like it doesn't, I think there's it doesn't lean snark. I think it leans earnest. And I think we need that right now, that you get to just be in a bed with your best friend and watch this show and binge it. Like that, to me, that's going to be the joy of this series. And I think that's where it really will shine.
It certainly will. Thank you both so much, Scott and Benito.
Thank you.
And our friends at Prime Video for joining us today. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us today for Half Hour with Overcompensating.